Hey, this is MJ, call sign KW3KW, and welcome to another episode of Ham Radio Made Simple. Today I'm going to be doing a review and a demo on a CW software called MRP40, which I'll be able to show you how you can receive and decode CW via the software program and also transmit via your keyboard. It's something I've been looking for about the last 3 years, and I finally found one that meets my criteria. So this is episode number 41. And again, thank you for all of you who keep continuing to hit the like and the subscribe button, and for all your prayers and comments regarding my health situation. So thank you. I really appreciate it. So today I'm going to talk about why and when would you use a software application like this? What's out there today? And I've been looking for 3 years, and I finally found a solution I'm actually happy with. I'm going to be doing an overview of the MRP40, and I'll actually get into a demo so you can see it too. Now, I have setup instructions, handouts that will include the software and the rig settings, and I'll do a summary. So it's really important that you get the handouts, and I think it'll save you a lot of time trying to set this thing up. So what CW apps are out there today? Well, the first one, FL Digi, if you go under op mode, and you can find CW, and its limitations from my experience, anything over 20 words per minute, it had a difficult time decoding. As well, you don't have robust filters built into this thing to pull in weaker signals and decode it correctly. One of the main issues with FL Digi, it's just not meant for all the filtering that you need to do. This is different when you're doing, as opposed to JS8 or whatever, you don't use filters. On CW, you do use filters. And as far as CW Get, so I tried this, then I tried this. I actually bought the license, and it worked pretty good. I give it a B, but it's 2 apps. You have to get the CW Get and CW Type. So it's not one combined app. It's 2 different ones working in it. And again, it's a good choice, but there's better solutions out there. Ham Radio Deluxe software has it built in. I don't own the software, so I know I can't really speak how well it does, but it is a tool if you actually own a Ham Radio Deluxe software. I bought the MRP40, and this is what it looks like, and it works really well and really surprised me. So what is it, and how does it work? Well, what you're really looking at is trying to use a PC, and you're transmitting via the keyboard and receiving versus the app, and it does the decoding for you. So keyboard versus keyer. Only works on Windows 10 and 11 and not Linux. Receiving is done by the sound card, similar to just like JS8. So if you have your digital setup, you're going to use pretty much your digital setup with the exception of some rig changes that you're going to be doing because you have to set it up for CW. But as far as most of the setup it's pretty simple. And in my instructions I have, all my handouts, I show you exactly what you need to do. So it's kind of a slight change from your digital setup, just more on the CW side of it. And it uses the USB COM port or sound card for sending and receiving. The display has a decoder section, which you see right in here. It has a typing section, which you see in here. This is the oscillogram, which is up in here. But this is what you want to focus on. This is the beautiful part of the tool. The way he set this up, Norbert set this up, this is not going to be good to code. This all should be white. But when you see some blues and oranges, this is where you have to start using the filtering techniques, like the slider down in here, your RF gain, etc. And I get into that here in a few slides. But also can give you a view where you can change the font size, the window size, the format, the formal words, you want correct word spacing, expandable Q codes. And I love this. This is what I use now. And this was, to me, a bonus. And I think when you use this function, and I'll show you later, it's incredible. And it's in my handouts. I'll show you what it looks like. And again, if you're doing competition, this is a great little tool to be able to record your QSOs. So why use it? Well, if you're learning CW, for example, it's a great training tool. You can listen to words being sent. You can see the words being displayed in front of you as you're sending out. It's a great tool on it. And this is what a lot of people like. This is the bridge to get to the long other side. And eventually you can move from the keyboard to the keyer and just use the RX side only because, again, it decodes it and it can save the file for you. Otherwise, you'd have to be writing it out on paper. Don't want to learn CW or can't, like in my case with my neuro condition now, I just jumped in right with the keyboard and I get clean code, and the CW signal goes great distances, even goes local, and you can do it at lower power. And so to me, this is a tool in the toolbox that you really want to have. And again, you know me from watching all these videos, I'm one of those, do want to prep for disasters. And again, we live in a hurricane zone here in North Carolina, and power and stuff goes out. Now I realize this is another great tool to use. But it does have limitations. It's not a perfect solution. So what are some of the challenges in there? Decoding, you're only as good as the signal. So, again, on the other side too, but what separates the competition on this is its ability to pull out the code and use its internal filters built in. I'll get into, like in here, there's a slider that goes back and forth that can really make a difference. And you can see here, I've got this set up where now instead of remember the colors in the last couple slides, this is all almost white, the dots and the dashes. This is getting a cleaner decode that you see right in here. But remember also, there's bad CW out there. So you may think, oh, this is not decoding right. No, you could be decoding correctly, but the problem is it's bad code. Someone's learning or not doing it right. So it's just not the software at times. And then you have to learn CW abbreviations because there's a lot of different terminology that is now, instead of words, they're broken down into short acronyms. Also, there's personal slang that can be involved in here. How people will use their own. So you may get a full decode, but you may not understand exactly what it is unless you've been working, doing CW for a while and you say, oh, I come across that. I know what they're saying. So just because you get the code doesn't mean it's clean. It doesn't mean it's good. And it doesn't mean you can understand it if you don't know all of the nuances of CW. Okay, responding to the original operator. So if I hear, for example, not just me responding, but listening, more importantly, I'm hearing a conversation going back between two, and you'll see it going back and forth up here. What I found is that sometimes one is a weaker signal. So you're getting full decode on one, a weaker signal on another. Offset frequency, so they're on two different frequencies and they're talking to each other. So there are challenges that you're going to be faced when you're doing this. There is no perfect solution. So what are the advantages in here? Is it better than a keyer? Well, in some ways, when you key in with a keyboard, it's clean code unless you mistype. It's easier to pick up another software user operator. I mean, if you and I were both doing with the MRP40, we would be having a blast doing this back and forth. This is really great. Speed settings. Again, it's going 5 to 60 words per minute. So you have the ability to be able to pick up on the low end and the high end, and the system does all of the decoding for you. And then you could match your speed to the others. One of the things I've learned as I'm learning about the CW culture is if someone's sending a message at 30 words per minute, they recommend send it back to them at 30 words per minute. You don't want 60 words per minute because they probably overwhelm them. So I call it the fairness doctrine here is if someone's doing a QSO to you, respond back, if possible, to the words per minute that they're using. Now, if they're doing 80 and you can't do 80, then you're going to go slower and hopefully they pick it up and they'll reduce theirs down so that they can have a QSO. And again, you can choose fast or slow. It's up to you. And it does have built-in macros that are right in here, which are really nice. So you can do a CQ, you can do some general messaging that you want. If you're doing this for MCOM groups, you can have preset messages that just go out automatically and you don't have to be typing it in all the time. It also works with WinKeyer, which is a hardware tool that people buy to do a lot of macros into it. They have buttons you can press and create your own macros. It's on a software app, and then it works through a physical hardware device called the keyer. But basically with the different macros built into it, not sure you really need it. I bought the MRP40, and the cost of it was 59.50 euros. So at the time of the conversion, it's 65.26. And I break down how to buy this through PayPal and everything. So don't worry about trying to figure that out now. But the different features are, here's the typing section that you see in here. This is your receiving section. Here's your custom macros that is built in. Here is the actual signal itself, and you want to center it between the red lines. And they give you a function to optimize that automatically. And that's the Go Max button. And this can be set up on a one-time basis by hitting it, or automatically it will do it and give you the best signal possible that's in here. Here's the volume indicator, which then is going to influence how you move the slider back and forth. And again, the goal on this is to get all of the dots and dashes white. And that's where you're going to get your best decode. When you see here the transmission here at 16 words per minute, in red means you're transmitting, green you're not, and green here you're receiving. And so here it is. We have it set up so that pretty much that we're receiving and sending at the same speed. You have your AFC controls and stuff like that. So when you do the setup for the MR40 on it here, purchasing the software is a little bit different. Here's the download for the application for the MRP Morse Code sender. And purchasing it, let me talk about some of the points you need to understand. There's a 30-day free trial, which I used, which was great because before I spend any money, I wanted to make sure it met my satisfaction level, and it did. It exceeded it. And since this is being paid in Germany through Norbert Phillips, the thing about this is it's not like, you check out and it automatically bills him. You have to send money to him. So if you're not used to using PayPal, and you don't know how to send money, make sure you get the handouts on this one. But there's specific instructions that must be sent in it so that they know who you are, your call sign, etc. And the cost is, like I said, about $67, which was for me. And it took me 24 hours to get the license before he responded. It gives up to 3 days in case something's going on with him. It's one license only. However, if you send an email, you can get up to 3 licenses if you have 3 computers. Like me, all of us have like a mobile setup, our desk setup, and a backup. If you have Windows Defender and it seems to be a problem, there's specific instructions he includes. He shows you that you're going to want to do to operate this. If you're having Windows Defender, block the program from being installed. And so this is the instructions. Here's the typical, which worked for me. But if you're having issues, then it actually gets into how to set it up if you're having antivirus or Defender issues. Purchasing the license. Again, it's a single license, but you can get up to 3 computers. Again, that's what my setup I want is for my 3 computers. And for purchasing it, this is where you, with the PayPal, you can hit the send option. But in order to do that, you have to have the right information. And again, it's in my handouts. It's basically what you're going to do here is you're going to put in right in here who you're going to send it to. It's MRP40 at polar-electric.com. You're going to put in the 5950 here. It'll convert it. And this is where you have to put in. I put the MRP40 CW software, my registration. ID is when you set this up, even for a trial run, there is a registration ID. And that's where you have to cut and copy and put that in there. You put your call sign and I put my name. And basically an example of how to fill that out. And make sure you get my handouts, KW3KW at mail.com. I also have rig settings for the IC7300 and for the FT891 and software setup. So let's talk about some of the advantage on this. That one of it surprised me. I couldn't believe how it could decode some of the signals and very troubling codes I never thought was possible, weak codes. So with the tools built in, with the GoMax, the slider, the audio signal filters, and knowing how to operate your rig correctly, because the software is half of it, but the hardware is the other half of it. And transmission, you're basically doing it for your own keyboard, which is really nice in that. And that, again, you don't have to buy 2 different apps, it's one. And the format text options, once you understand this, you're going to love it. It's amazing on here. So you can do correct word spacing, and I did expanded Q codes too. And so, for example, let's say this is the correct word spacing in here, and I did formatted words next and expanded Q codes. Look what you got here. So this is now this. So it's taken out a lot of the Q codes that are within here, QSO and all the others. It puts it all into a friendly format to read. So again, play around. You want formatted words, correct word spacing, but expanded Q codes, I think, is a must. So how do you dig out weak signals? And again, so this is my ICOM 7300 CW mode. I'm on filter 3, and I do run filters on this one. And so that's the key on here. So in order to pull in, you have to get a clean signal from the rig. you're going to want to make sure you do like fine tune adjustment, the sound pitch. The thing I found is I want to make sure that instead of just going like 14.037 .46, and I believe me, the difference between a 4.8 and a 4.6 can make the difference in bringing your code in. So again, go for on the frequencies, making sure you get a more specific, detailed, deeper level of it, and not a rounded up number. The RF gain control, and so you want to make sure when you're looking at this that this looks nice and clean. And I found that that's a big difference on it. And put your filters on. Your could be your notch filter. I used, for example, my noise blanker, my notch filter, my preamp one, and maybe one other thing in there. But I can use that. You can't use it on JS8, but you can use it on CW here, and it makes a difference. So play around with your filters. Again, the Windows software, just like you're doing JSA call, the sound panel, make sure that your levels and the settings are just like you're doing for digital app modes. And again, it's in my handout, so you can see what those are. Again, on the MRP40 software, there's a slider that goes back and forth. There's the Go Max button, and there's the audio signal filter built within. So a lot of good tools, but again, you have to know how to use your rig, put your filters on, and how to pull these out. Once you get this down, you're pulling out some weak signals, and you're getting it nice. So included in my handout, I talk about the Go Max button. And again, this forces the program, as I mentioned, to receive the strongest signal in the audio spectrum decoding. And so what you'll see in here is the red line lock in right in the center of the code. And it's perfect on that. And the horizontal slider, which you'll see it goes both ways, it goes back and forth, is what you're going to use to change this to white instead of the colors that goes in there, and it really locks it in. So those are two big tools in there, the Go Max function and the horizontal slider. Again, my handouts that you can get. This software for me, again, it just blew my mind what I'm able to decode. In part one of the demo, have my rig connected, so this thing's moving around, so you don't hear the noise and everything. But let's go over a quick understanding of how to set this up. Under the file, this is your log file, so it's going to record everything that you have done at what time, and you can actually file and you can save as. So if there's important messages, you can actually save these files. Under options is where you're going to set this thing up. Under the transceive, what you're going to want to do is auto Go Max, weak signal decoding, and CW filter narrow. Just those three, and it's in my handouts. On the transmission side of it, you want to make sure you use send via COM port and transmit speed is equal. Those are really the only two that you need to work on. As far as if you're using a sound card, if you click that on, I'll pull them over from my dual monitor screen here so you can see. In here, this is where I have USB audio codec and USB audio codec. And it could be plug and play audio codec, but anyhow, if you're using, like if I had my FT891, but that's what you're looking for is from the drivers. And COM port 3, hit the save, and then you can close this out. And so that's basically logged in, but I'm going to go back to options. I'm going to go to the TX settings, and I'm going to go back to COM port because that's what works when I check that. So let's go back to show you here under options, transmitting setting. I'm using the COM port and the TX link. That's the one that works for me. As far as the display goes in there, you can use there's other views, window size. You're going to want to decide how big you want the window. And the other one is attach Windows function. First time you do it, open this thing up. And this is the oscillogram up in here. And this is where you can adjust your font size right here. I would recommend format words and expanded Q codes. And you don't have to worry about this. But to get rid of it, you have to basically close each window that goes in. I'll close that out. We're back to our screen right in here. As far as the screen itself, when the signal comes in, and you'll see this when I actually tune in to a station and do a decode and I'll show you to send a message. But this is your volume level up in here. This is going to lock into a signal, the double red lines. And this is where you make fine adjustments. And you'll see this in the second part of how to make sure that all the dots and dashes get white. There's your, when you're transmitting, this turns red. Green, it's not. When you're receiving, this turns green. And AFC, I leave mine checked. You can play around with it. Here are your macro tabs in here so you can create messages. And I'm not going to get into that. That's another 15 minutes added to the video. But if you do macros, which I will be doing, I will be definitely putting those things in here. And to clear the text that is underneath in the receive area down in here, you just hit the clear button and it will clear everything that you see. Here is your transmit window, and this is where if you were going to be transmitting in here, let's see, like that, KW3, KW. And again, I'm not connected, and then you just type it in and it sends it out. You don't want to make sure that your recording and playback settings are correct. So in the recording, I'm using USB audio codec, and the recording part is your receiving. So that's going to impact your volume and receiving area in here. And just real quick, levels start around 70 to 73 and work from there. This may be different than your JSA call in order to fine tune it. And advanced, you just want to make sure you don't ever enable audio enhancements on this one. So I'm going to hit OK. And if I go down to my playback, which is my where I'm transmitting, and again, USB audio codec, and I'm going to go to levels. I started around 70, make sure there's no enhancements checked. Advanced, the 2-box checked. This is pretty much everything you're doing for JS8. So nothing big there other than the volume level. So if you walk away with anything on that. And what I tend to do is I don't like that to be my default communication device. So a lot of times, like for example, there's my Bose I can set as a default. And that's my desktop speakers, and that goes away. And by doing that, when I'm doing my playback, I don't want to hear it on my speakers. I don't have to do extra settings. So again, when you're using your audio codec settings, just make sure they're not default. It seems to work better, and you're not pushing a lot of other sounds through it. So that's pretty much, and I leave this open, by the way, while I'm doing it. So this is the end of part one. Let me tune in the station and start showing you part two. Okay, I'll turn that sound down for a little bit here. But the key in when you're doing this is to get all of the code in white like this between the two red lines. And in order to do that, I adjusted the tune, fine tune on it so I get the right sound pitch. I also make sure while I'm doing it, I look to see how the color of this, if I can get it more white when I'm tuning it. Like I'm at 7.023.90. If I'll turn the sound up, you can hear this. If I go up to 9.3, you can notice the colors change on here. And if I go back down to 8.8, same thing. So not only am I listening to the tune, I'm actually also looking at the colors too that are coming across. And the other thing to do is you can adjust this, is right in here to try to get the sliders back and forth. If I go down a little bit, you can notice it's turning more white. And the code comes in clearer. So the RF gain is the first thing I adjust. I do the tuning. And again, while I'm tuning, I'm looking to see if I can get this to white and some code coming in. And then I do the fine adjustments back and forth on the slider right in here. And so that works out pretty well. If I want to send a message, I'll show you here in just a second. I will type down in here. Clear as I can clear all of this out. And I have it on AFC, automatic frequency control. And so if I hit the clear here, it clears everything off. But if I'm going to type and I put in, for example, a couple ones I put in, if you right mouse click, let's say if I right mouse click this, it says change. This is what I put, change your TX to another frequency. And I call that change TX. What happens a lot of times people type over each other. And someone asks the other one, they're coming in, hey, go to another frequency. I'll save and close. You can do a test, which I'll do here, KW3 testing CW software app, label that as a test. I just typed it in. So I'm going to save and close. So what I'm going to do now is go to off frequency where I don't hear anybody. And when you don't hear anybody, notice there's nothing up in here. And by the way, you can move this if there was different areas where the code is coming in. Now, remember on options under RX, I have Auto Go Max. If you don't have Auto Go Max, what you have to do then is hit Go Max up here, this button, and it'll lock in and center the frequency. But it's searching right now. So since no one is on it here, I'm going to click on down here in the type area, and I'm going to do a test. And I'm just going to hit the test. And you can see I'm typing at 15 words per minute. I'll wait till this gets done, and then I'll adjust it. You can see in here. Now I could go up to, let's say 25, go down, let's say 26, and I can do it again. So I'm going to go test. And now I'm at 26 words per minute. So this is how you adjust the speed that you want to go in. Typically start around 20. But if let's say you and I were having the app and we're doing this together and we're connected, we would change our speed up and be able to then, use some of our text. But it's probably better to go slower if you're freehand typing down in here. And so, for example, otherwise you're going to get a lot of spaces. So if I went down, for example, let's go down to like 15 words per minute. Now I can type in here, for example, KW3, KW is your, see what happens? Make a mistake. And sometimes that's what happens in here. You type wrong and you get stuff in here. So again, if I did it right though, I would put in here, this is MJ saying this part of the demo is over. And it's at 15 words per minute. KW3, KW. So hopefully that kind of helps you to understand exactly what's the best way to use this. As far as tuning is the hardest, typing is the easiest. And with the settings that I have, this would all be pretty straightforward, and you don't have to go through the learning curve that I did. So let's get back over to the PowerPoint and do the summary and finish up. Okay, as far as like the IC73 handout, this is what it looks like. And just ask it and I'll give it to you. But I'll point out a few things that I learned along the way in here. This is the real critical section, and that's where you want to make sure the USB send and the USB keying is changed to the RTS and DTR. And that's when you're looking under here, the USB sending key, RTS, DTR. Those have to be in here. RTTY, it doesn't matter for RTTY, but these two make sure that, so when this will work on your transmission using your keyboard. Make sure you add filters, change your power setting, do the CW edits, and I break it all down in here, what's in the front screen and all of this. So again, this is where you're going to want to make sure that you get a hold of my handouts here. And I always create a profile if you have the 7300, and I save it on a scan disk. This one is like for my called CW settings, and I load it versus my voice versus my digital. So a different profile, it makes it really nice. So for the FT891, what's a little bit different on here is right in here. On the CW settings 7.05 through 7.012, you want to make sure you make these changes within here. These are all pretty much where my digital settings that I used for JS8, and now I added my CW that goes in there. So in summary, for the MRP40, it surprised me how well I was able to decode. I just absolutely love this program in here. Being able to do keyboard transmission instead of a keyer for me is a game changer. And the cost is about $67 on it. And if you're looking for others to play with, I'm going to say this to you. Because you've stayed this long in the video, reach out to me at kw3kw@mail.com and say, hey, I would like to set up a time to do some testing. And if you get this loaded, I'll get back to you and we'll go ahead and set up some times where we can practice trying to reach each other using this CW app. Again, download the user manual. I reviewed it, read through it pretty well, and a lot of things came to light. So this is MJ, KW3KW with Ham Radio Made Simple, thanking you for hitting the like, the subscribe, and all your positive comments. And I hope you have a lot of fun with this app because I am. I look forward to the next video. So this is MJ, out.